Assalamu alaikum viewers, I am Dr. Shagufta from Psychology Department, Hazar University, Mansehra. Today topic of presentation is prejudice and discrimination. Earlier to move ahead, it is better to know what is an attitude. As we have discussed in previous lectures, that attitude is a person's predisposition to behave in a particular manner with respect to an attitude object. When we define an attitude, we come up with the three basic elements that can be denoted in terms of A, B, and C. In other words, it is also known as ABC model of attitude. A stands for affect, B stands for behavior, and C for cognitive aspect of an individual's behavior. Okay, now coming towards how we can say that prejudice, discrimination, and stereotype are different from each other, but even then they can be explained with respect to ABC model of an attitude. When a person's behavior aspect of an attitude is prominent, this may be depicted in terms of discrimination. When a person's cognitive aspect of a behavior is dominant, then it will be known as stereotype. When a person's affect or emotional aspect will be dominant, it will be known as prejudice. Now coming towards the definitions, prejudice can be defined as negative attitude towards member of specific social group just simply because they are a part of a group or they are a member of a specific social group. And as I have already told you that prejudice, the feeling component will be dominant one. That means the person's hatred, the person's negative feeling, the person's displeasing emotions will be very much observable in that person's behavior. Next is discrimination. In discrimination, the person's behavior tendency will be negative with respect to that person's membership in a specific group. That means that will be exhibited in terms of disapproval, avoidance, ignorance, not allowing that person to come closer or to be allowed to be in any part of possible companionship, etc. Next is stereotypes. Stereotypes, as I have already told you, stereotype means the person's belief section or the person's cognitive aspect of a behavior will be very much evident. And in stereotypes, a person holds a belief about a personal attributes that is actually shared by that people, and we are just ignoring the person's personal characteristics and we are attributing the simply shared qualities on the basis of the membership in a particular group. Next, now we will discuss what are the factors that are very much important in shaping the prejudice and discrimination. We will simply, first of all, go for a brief intro of all these major aspects, and in later section of this presentation we will discuss in detail. Briefly talking about these factors, the first one is the cognitive sources. Obviously, we will discuss the cognition or mental activity of an individual, and mainly that will be based on the categorization of individuals. Next is the emotional sources. In emotional sources, we will be discussing mainly the person's emotional aspect or personality of a person, and specifically we will discuss the psychoanalytic perspective or psychoanalytic theory by Freud, and specifically the defense behavior or defense mechanism that persons adapt in order to confront with a conflicting situation or when the person is feeling frustrated. And in the last, we will discuss the social sources. In social sources, we will discuss how the person's perception of being lacking the equality or lack of, we can say, justice, and along with that, how the person's identity can make that person to show prejudice behavior. And later on, we will also discuss the intergroup competition, how it can trigger prejudice and discriminative behavior. Now coming towards a detail, the first is the cognitive sources of prejudice. The very first one is the categorization. Categorization means whenever we come up with a new situation, we simply within no time, without wasting any time, without not as much mental activity involvement, we simply categorize the situation according to different categories. And with respect to the social behavior, the same strategy has been adapted. What we do, we simply categorize the behavior with the nature of their behavior or with a number of other qualities, such as categorizing all of your fellows with respect to your sex or gender, such as male students, female students, male fellows, and female fellows. In the same manner, we can categorize individuals with respect to the economical status, family background, ethnicity, religiosity, etc. So, all of this categorization is very much important for a human being to live in a society in a successful manner. So, ethnicity and sex are powerful ways of categorizing individuals or people. When we say that categorization is very much important, but we cannot wholly slowly, we simply put all the blame of prejudice, or we cannot condemn the categorization as one of the source of prejudice, as it may be misused if somebody is categorizing an individual and showing the prejudice behavior is going to be taken as wrong, but generally categorization is a healthy behavior. Social identity theory says that when we feel that their social identity is very much important, automatically they will go for categorizing other people and making them self as different from others. So they will categorize the whole universe, the whole society in terms of us and them. Obviously, us will be consisting of all those members or co-members of him who is sharing the same status, or obviously who is having the same goals and objectives as a group, whereas them will be those individuals who are not having the in-group status or who is actually out-group members. The next important topic is out-group homogeneity. Homogeneity effect suggests that when you think of a person who is a member of outer group, we will take that person as similar to any other member who is sharing the same membership of the group. In simple words, we can say that for outer group members, we may take them that all of them are the same, or they are sharing the same qualities, the same characteristics. Such as if we say that that particular group is just like that because all of them are having the same qualities, or all the we can say Muslims, being a Muslim, we may be taken as having homogeneity effect. Doesn't matter whatever the behavior of a single human being or single Muslim is, we will take simply on the basis of religiosity, being a Muslim, we may consider that all the Muslims are terrorists. So this may be taken as homogeneity effect. Next point, they are all alike while we are diverse. When we say that we are categorizing the individuals with respect to us and them, or in group and out group, we will like to take another stance, that is when we say that we, the in group members, we are all alike, that we are sharing the same characteristics, whereas we are not sharing the same characteristic. Whereas when we are talking about the other group, we may say that all of the other group members will be performing the same because they belong to the same group. That is simply, you can call it selfishness type of behavior, and this is actually termed as homogeneity effect, and that is regarding the outer group membership. Opposite of that, in-group homogeneity effect can also occur. What is in-group homogeneity effect? In-group homogeneity effect can be defined in terms of when simply number of other groups, number of other members who are actually not in having the in-group status, simply because of some other qualities may take them as one whole, such as those individuals who have migrated to other countries or foreign for the sake of studies, business, or whatever the reason, and specifically all the Asian country individuals will consider themselves as one whole because they are not considering their nationality or religion as one of the criteria. On the other hand, they are considering their belongingness to the subcontinent and being known as Asians. This may be known as in-group homogeneity effect. Now we will discuss the function of stereotyped thinking. Obviously, the stereotype thinking is not taken to be positive or healthy behavior, but in other hand, it may be making the person to have some functioning, such as first of all quickness. Quickness suggests that when you are having already an image of a person, or you have schemas about an individual's behavior in terms of stereotype, automatically this will lessen your time consumption of the facts and findings, and in turn this will make you to become quick in your response. When we say that the person is very much quick without considering the present facts and finding, just based on the past experiences, past knowledge, and the held schemas about an individual, we can say that it may make the person to feel to face some type of making fault or mistakes in their final conclusion and judgment, as they are not considering their present finding or present facts. So this may make them to be wrong at times. Connected with the earlier 2 points, another point is that this will make them to appear to free up cognition from other tasks. As I have just told you that in having a stereotype thinking, this will make you to free from mental calculation or to come up with a number of other efforts to be put on checking and scrutinizing the facts and finding. So this may make you free up other possible cognitive activities, and this will make you to reserve your resources. Next point is that filtering social judgment through stereotype results in ignoring information that is relevant but inconsistent with the stereotype. That means, obviously, when you are going for stereotype behavior, stereotype thoughts, obviously, this will make you to ignore information, and you will just go for even those information that is not consistent with the facts and findings. So this in turn will make you to be at fault or at wrong. Now we will discuss the emotional source of prejudice, frustration, and as I have already made it clear that with respect to this aspect, we will be discussing basically the psychoanalytic perspective. Just recall all of those basic concepts that was given by Freud, specifically the conflicting situation between id ego and superego, the developmental stages, the fixation, and how it may come up with a different problematic personality in the later on life. Okay, just keeping in mind all of those different concepts given in Freud, we can explain that how and why prejudice and discriminative behavior triggers from your basic childhood experiences. Study says that when a child has been maltreated or been treated harshly by the parents, later on in his life, when the child becomes an adult and we can say get some power and authority, it is found that they are found to be more harsh in their behavior and rigid in their actions. So it is said that the early childhood experiences may be one of the explanation for prejudice behavior. Another important explanation given by Freud's perspective or Freud's theory, that is prejudice and discriminative behavior as a result of different defense mechanism. As you know, defense mechanism or defensive behavior was suggested in order to confront with conflicting behavior, frustration, or simple saying, anxiety causing different factors. Okay, now coming towards the defense mechanism. As you know, defense mechanism with the nature of defensive behavior can be grouped into three basic forms, and we will be right now be discussing in on the aggressive reaction of defense behavior. Aggressive reaction defensive behavior, as you know, not only makes the person to confront with the stressor but also to retaliate and to show aggression. So just taking the example of free floating anger, or another important example can be scapegoating or the projection. It simply do get fit as a good explanation of prejudice and frustration behavior. As I have said that using psychoanalytic perspective, and specifically it is found that authoritarian people, they simply confirm rigidity to cultural rules and values, believe that morality is clear right and wrong choices. And specifically if we say that those individuals who is having some problem in a proper formation of their superego, or they are not very much clear about their morality, so we can say that they may be at some time, they may be at some points, they may be wrong and making prejudgment and showing prejudice behavior. The authoritarian personality is characterized by submissiveness to authority and intolerance for those who are weak. And next important study that was conducted by Adorno et al. In 1950, they actually constructed the F scale that measures the authoritarian personality. And that suggests that when the person is having authoritarian personality, that is actually is a result of the conflict that individual is facing, and because he is having some frustration.